Hey, good morning, team. It is Tuesday, May 9th. I'm Amy Corr, and I'm here with Kevin Van Neck, and we are at the Goose Island office. We've got another really great topic for you today, one that sometimes we all don't love, but one we need to focus on, and that is talking about delivering bad news. So the good news is I hope your coffee is nice and warm and full. So grab it, and let's jump into the next episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Yep, let's do it. Good morning, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We were inspired by an article in Inman. Eric Bramlett is his name. He works in Austin. And what he talked about in this article was delivering bad news, as Amy said. And so we thought this was a great topic. He did a great job in this really short article, highlighting some key points. We wanted to expand on it because we know nearly every one of us for sure has had to deliver bad news at some point, and we have to be good at it because there certainly is a way to not be good at it. So through what we're going to talk about today, hopefully you can get something out of this where you can practice and you can learn how to deliver bad news in an effective way.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great topic, I think, because we all have to do it throughout the course of this business. And, you know, many of us want to have the reaction of putting our heads in the sand, but we know what happens when we choose to do that. So let's talk about the first thing you can be thinking about as it relates to being able to relay bad news. And that is really about setting expectations and educating our clients. And I think the thing about setting expectations, and I really loved this in our conversation, is being one step ahead of our clients. Let's face it, you've done a deal or two or three or four or five. And so you've known what kind of situations oftentimes will present themselves. Even if they're not exactly alike, we've been in the scenarios where, you know, maybe on the other side, we know the deal is not going well, the agent is challenging, and we know there are going to be things that might be a problem or bad news to our clients. We oftentimes know what's coming before our clients do. So the most important thing is making sure we stay one step ahead so that we can prepare them and we know how to get them ready. The other thing is making sure that we educate them ahead of time. We talk a lot about sitting down with a seller or a buyer before we even get them in a car or before we list their home. One of the strongest or most impactful things that we can do is talk about the worst case scenarios of what might happen during a deal. I find that when you talk about what might happen, good and bad, it gives them at least a notice that certain things might happen and they may need to be ready for them. And when you tell them, hey, these are certain, hiccups or things that could happen, but we're going to make sure that we make this a smooth transaction for you. When they do happen real time, you can help them recall the conversation that you had beforehand. And a couple things happen. They feel more comfortable because it isn't totally taking them by surprise, but they're also confident with you because you already told them that this was something that might happen. So they feel confident that, you've been through this before and you're going to be able to get them out of it. And the other thing too that's so important is we talk about communication being really key, making sure that when you start the process with a buyer or seller, you talk about the points in which you're going to check in and communicate throughout the process, because that's also going to help you make sure that you can get out in front of bad news, and that by communicating with them so constantly, it's not going to feel so awkward when you're making a phone call to them about something that may not go their way. So education, and then really making sure you're one step ahead of what's going to happen, because odds are you've seen something like it before.
Such great tips. There's a lot in there too. So make sure if you need to replay that part again, what Amy just shared, there's a lot from buyer and seller presentations and making sure you have that sit down and expectation.
Yep.
And really good point. I really liked what you said about if you share it ahead of time, it limits the stress and the crisis that arises when something does happen.
Right.
Very cool. Number 2, bad news, you have to deliver it on time. What does that mean? Don't delay. So whether it's in your personal life or it's in your business life, because we've all been there in both, when you're delivering bad news, no one wants to do it. Like Amy said, sometimes our natural inclination is to bury our head in the sand, delay it, hope it goes away, close our eyes, wish it doesn't happen. It never goes away. And in those scenarios that you've been in, think about it. If you've ever delayed delivering bad news, has it ever gotten better the longer you waited?
Probably not.
No, usually it escalates.
Yeah.
So you can't do it. And if you think about it in your own experiences, you've had it where there is bad news on the other side. You're working with an agent in a transaction and they disappear. They start ghosting you and you know something is up. You may not know exactly what it is, but now your confidence in that agent and transaction is going down. You don't know what to communicate to your clients, but you know that something is up. It never gets better. Don't be that agent. Deliver the bad news in a timely manner, because the more you delay, not only does it escalate the crisis mode, but especially in our industry, it could put more stress on your clients because the timeline gets shorter.
Yep.
If something is going wrong and you need to deliver bad news and there's a finite timeline, such as a mortgage contingency or a closing date or something like that, all we're doing is we're wasting time to come up with a solution. So we're creating more stress the more we delay. So bite the bullet, get into it, deliver the news, and it's going to be much better the sooner you deliver it right on time. You never want your clients to say to you, why didn't you tell us sooner?
Yeah. Oh, those are the worst words. And to your point about time, critical things could be done sometimes if you tell or get the information out as soon as possible. Because imagine, I'm recalling scenarios where people waited and it almost made the bad news worse because then things couldn't be dealt with because we waited too long. So really great advice. And then this one I really like because it's hard when we're working with clients, and this is such an emotional experience for them. And oftentimes bad news can be devastating to them. So when you are delivering it, it's remembering to be calm and be empathetic, right? You need to make sure that you don't necessarily put the monkey on your back. I want you to be careful because a lot of times I think we take it on like this is our fault. We didn't do a great job. Certainly, yes, sometimes we mess up. But sometimes things are out of our control. So don't take it on if it is. But what you need to make sure that you do is give your client the time to react, to have the emotions that they need to have. I think that's what's so important. And be okay with it. If you are kind of the one that they have to yell at, cry with, really just get their emotions out on you. I know it's not always that easy, but when you know that it's going to happen and you know that that's sort of your job, it kind of changes your mindset. And suddenly you realize almost like, bring it on, because I want to make sure that you can get your emotions out, feel okay, so that we can then figure out what's our next step. Right? So lean into or just embrace the fact that the emotion has to come. I actually feel like if you try to minimize their emotional feelings, that'll end up hindering you in truly being able to move forward. So give them the opportunity to be upset, whatever they need to do, be okay and comfortable, and even say to them, it's okay. I'm here for you to get upset. Those emotions are valid, or if you are sad because this is the third time we've lost out on a home, it is okay to be sad. Giving them the right to have that emotion and showing your support and working them through that. But then what's also important is once you've kind of gotten through that, you're also the person that says, okay, here's what we're going to do now. Remember, you are the professional in the situation. And just like a doctor or a dentist who, oftentimes, a doctor probably more than a dentist, unless you're getting all your teeth pulled out. But regardless, there are certain, industries and professionals that give bad news all the time. And, they kind of go through that process of allowing the emotions to happen, but then they always have a next step plan. Here's what we're going to do next, or here are our options. So be that agent that allows them to have the emotion, but then be ready with what the next steps are going to be.
Yeah, that's great. One thing, the way you started that reminded me of something you taught me a long time ago, which was, we didn't create the problem. So in that scenario where you said, don't necessarily take the blame for something you didn't do, but that's a good way to approach this, is just realize if it's out of your control, you didn't create the problem, but your job is to solve it.
Yep.
So addressing it and coming with those solutions and next steps is key in our role as being an advisor.
Yep.
So number 4, to wrap it up, practice. Practice is key to everything. Doing it again and again and again. So when we say practice, don't play this over and over in your mind, but when you know you have to deliver bad news, it might be easier to do it if you're prepared. And so you can speak it out loud, you can speak it to a spouse or a partner or a colleague and practice it, because it's really important that when you deliver this bad news, that you do exude confidence.
Yep.
So the confidence is really important so that as they're getting their emotions out, they feel like you do have a solution, you will be able to provide the solution and guide them through this. So practice is really important, and it's going to give you that confidence to share with empathy, to be able to remain calm regardless of the personality type on the other side, whoever you're delivering the bad news to. And then lastly, this practice It's also going to allow you to make sure that you lay out those next steps very clearly and concisely without over talking.
Yep. I love it. So we hope that you found some really great insight into these tips about how to deliver bad news. We don't love doing it, but part of our job, it's usually required, right? So again, just thinking about some of these tips, how you can utilize them and implement them in your day-to-day.
I have one more.
Oh,
I have a secret one. I just thought this is something we've actually talked about quite a bit.
Bonus tip here.
We all hesitate, right? You don't want to do this necessarily. Like we said, you don't want to do it. So what's one way to get past it? Do you know where I'm going?
Taking a deep breath.
Taking a deep breath is one.
Silence.
Mel Robbins.
Oh, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Yes.
The 5-second rule. Amy and I have talked about this a lot. The
Yes.
5-second rule, it'll propel you into action. So if you're hesitating, just start counting down.
Yep. If you hate making that phone call, just pick up the phone, get ready, say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then dial. Because the idea of what the conversation will be like in your head is always worse than the real thing. So, well, you got a bonus tip today, so lucky all of you. We hope you found these helpful. We hope you have a great Tuesday. And until we see you next week, just remember, you got this.